got to a point where it needs a regrind and obviously a sharpen after that. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to just run that over my linisher, which is over there, which is basically a belt sander. So what I'm going to use is this little wooden thing, which I can put this on top of the belt sander or linisher and place the plane iron on there to carefully do the primary grind. And that should be about 30 degrees, which this is 30 degrees. So I'm going to do that now. So here we have our linisher and my block, which is set 30 degrees, and the plane iron, and I have this little pot of water here ready. That's to cool down. What you don't want is that to become so hot it starts turning blue. So you've got to make sure that you regularly dunk it in the water, cool it down. So this will be running on top of here. Yes, it's sand in the bottom here, but because there isn't a lot of grit left on here, I say grit, I mean it's not very sharp. All it's doing is polishing the back of this piece of oak, and I literally just place that on there, and then that'll do my primary grind. And then the secondary grind I'll do with the oil stones. There we go. As you can see, I was stopping every so often to check it and also to dunk it in the cold water to make sure it didn't get hot. You may ask yourself, why don't I use a grinder, like a rotary bench grinder such as one of these? But my big but is, it's not flat. This is. It runs over a cast machined bed. This one is an CV machine, so it's not a particularly expensive machine, but it certainly does its job. And this is an 80 grit belt on there, quite worn, so it's got very little cut on there now, so there's not much good for wood, as you can see, because it hasn't actually done much to the bottom of it. But what it has done is it's created a nice flat grind. I haven't gone all the way to the tip because there was no need. All I'm doing is my primary grind. So the first grind, and this is at 30 degrees. Now, I'm quite happy with that now. I haven't gone right to the tip, so I'll do that on the oil stones. But linisher, or whatever, or large belt sander like this, you could even use a smaller belt sander. As long as you can get the width of the blade, or the iron, onto the belt, it would be enough. So you could use a cheap 4-inch or even 3-inch belt sander in the vise, upside down, and done. Let's have a little wooden jig like this. It's best to use a jig if you can, really. I know some people don't, and some people swear blind, yeah, I don't need that. Maybe you don't, and some people do. And I would say I'm one of them. Because I find that if I'm constantly trying to do anything by hand over a long period of time, effectively I spoil the iron. It needs to be reground again and done properly. And I consider this relatively properly. So that was that. So let's go to the next stage. You have a few options regarding sharpening your plane iron. One is using a jig such as this, as a clamp on Stanley style jig. They work, it's actually a Draper one, but they do work quite well, they're okay. But you've got to make sure you get in the right position every time, which sometimes is easier said than done. Now, if you ever want to check your angle, it'd be quite good if you can get yourself one of these. This is a primary grind, little angle, protractory type thing. As you can see, I've written on there 30 degrees and 25 degrees. And these are quite handy just to check that you've got your angles right. So, great thing to have. So what you can use regarding the sharpening process, you can use oil stones, such as what I've got in my drawer here. And these two here, a coarse and a fine. They're both reversible, so it has actually got the same on the opposite side, really. But I like them in a drawer like that because it keeps them fairly low. But I only use this for touching up the plane iron while I'm actually doing my work. So that's the only reason I use these ones. I don't use them for a main sharpening process. I use a little handmade or homemade device, such as this very dusty thing here, all over it. So this is my plain iron jig. I've got 3 stones, 3 oil stones, coarse, fine, and a very fine whetstone, water stone. And I find these work quite well. Don't need that. So I have that effectively goes on top of there, and it's set. This one here is set to 30 degrees. How it works is because the heights of these stones, that one is 30 degrees. When it's on that one, it's 28 degrees. And the same with this one, it's 28 degrees. So it goes 30, 28, 28. So that's primary. That's my primary grind, my main grind. Yeah, if I want to touch that up, and this is my secondary grind, which is the actual edge itself. So let's show you how I do that. So first things first, now I've got my primary grind on there, which is pretty flat. I don't know if you can see how flat it is on there, but that is pretty flat, which is quite hard to do freehand, so my gadget did work. And I place the plain iron in my device here. So I place my iron in until it just touches the stone, and then I tighten up the clamp, making sure I've got contact. Yep. And let's just polish off my. I'll start my secondary grind, or primary grind. Piece of oil. So a little bit of oil works as a lubricant and helps keep the stone clean. So the fragments of the grind, those bits of metal, end up in the oil, not necessarily enground into the surface of the stone. I also make sure that I've got a rag nearby. In this case, it's a pair of old jogging bottoms I wear for work. Delegated. So, now, this is relatively wide plain iron, which is a 60mm plain iron, so 2.5 inches, and the stone is a 50 or 2 inch. So it's not as wide as the iron itself. Obviously, I'd like to have wide ones, really. But what you've got to do is you've got to make sure you use the full length of your stone, and also making sure the full width. But just making sure you are using pretty much the whole stone. One thing you don't want to do, which I did do a few times, come back and forth, you don't want to twist it sideways like so, because what you'll do is you'll create a round to your plain iron and it won't be flat. So as you move it across, try and just keep it sideways like so as you come backwards and forwards. Don't do that. Once you're satisfied you've done your primary grind with this, it's a good idea to move on to the fine stone. These are Norton India stones. These two. Very good quality and they last a very long time. I don't tend to take my good quality stones out with me if I'm on site because they get ruined or lost. Other people, how boy, you're so sharp this stone. And you feel obliged to say, go on then. And it comes back with a big notch in it or broken in two. So I don't actually do that anymore. So my good stones stay in the workshop. Now these stones here are flat. If your grind method isn't flat, you'll find your sharpening won't be 100% equal all the way along. It'll be obvious that there's something a little array. In this case, there's a little bit of. Let me show you. You can see here where I'm creating my secondary grind, but it's actually going in a little bit higher here at one part there. You can see that. Get it right there. you see it looks deeper on one side than the edges, in the middle. That means there's raised. But my grind, somehow I managed to grind more on the outside than I have on the inside. It wasn't perfect, but it's plenty good enough for what I'm doing here. Depends how pedantic you want to be. I just want to be sharp. Don't be fooled, because when you're doing this you think, oh my god, that ain't very sharp, is it? The reason for that is we've created a burr. On the edge here, effectively we're around this face and pushing the metal over. And you have a burr. So if you run your finger over the back edge of this, you'll feel it's rough. And that's where we've created this burr. First of all, I'm going to just take this out. And I'm going to use this stone to break the burr off. Now, there's various ways you can do this. One is you can run it like that across a piece of wood and it peel the burr off. That's one way people do it. Other way people use the back of your iron, and I'm using this oil here. This oil actually isn't that good for this job, it's a bit thick. So it's 3-in-1 oil, or similar. Use the back of your iron on there, and you literally just, if you swipes backwards, you feel it's rough. Like that, and you're breaking the burr off, so you're bending it the other way. And then effectively break the other way. But what I tend to do is, get some oil off, I actually use the palm of my hand. Or you can use a leather strop. But I just do this. I ain't cut myself yet. This is when I cut myself on YouTube. No, yeah. Definitely getting there. So what you effectively do is, if that my hand was the burr, you're bending it one way, you're bending it the other way, and eventually it breaks off. And then it leaves the actual very sharp edge, which is what we're getting. And you feel the back there. A few more backward swipes work as well. Gentle swipe there. Right, now we're going to move on to the waterstone here. To use a waterstone, you need water. In all cases, we need lubricant. So, water on that. So, I'm going to use the jig again. I need to place this in there. It's a shame you've got to remove it actually, because that means you're possibly changing your angle slightly. So, but this is going to take very little metal off. It's more for honing. That last little bit, just that really fine grind, or very fine sharpened on the edge. So take a few times just to ease up right here. This is a waterstone. It's a natural waterstone, this one is. Telltale sign you actually are doing something, because the water's turning back, and that'll be fragments of metal. Very fine metal grindings. So I'll take it out like so. Check my hand there. Feel it side sideways just to make sure I haven't left any burrs. And then finish off with my strop. My stropping hand. My father showed me how to do this years ago. I don't know if he ever cut himself. Not what I know of anyway. Now this is the other thing you used to do. You used to see it was sharp enough by shaving the back of his hand. To see if it cuts hair. Isn't that gross? Anyway, thank you for watching, and like I say, I'm no expert, but this is how I do it. I use the linen shirt to start with. This is what we see here, and I then finish off with my 3 oil stones using a jig, and then hone it up, and then my palm of my hand for doing the last little bit of honing on at the end, just to break off the burr. But I don't recommend that because you might cut yourself. So do as I say, not as I do. And give us a thumbs up and subscribe and yeah, share it. Share it with people. Yeah, anyone who might be interested is. There's no point sharing it with your grandmother unless she's into woodworking. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.